Hola, bienvenidos to a new episode of Unreserved con Shay. My name is Shayla, and today I have a very special guest. His name is Welington Gomez with one L, right, Welington?
Period.
He is currently an associate producer for Bravo's Watch What Happens Live and the chief editor of the Reality Rundown. He is my friend, a proud Dominican, and
Yes.
his personality and work ethic are out of this world, okay? You guys have to wait till we get into this conversation.
At least you're saying so.
You do. You have a strong work ethic. I asked him to come on because he is an excellent example of if no one is giving you an opportunity, just create it for yourself, okay? We cannot just sit around and just wait for an opportunity to happen, right? We need to get off of our behind sometimes and just create it for ourselves.
Like Kim Kardashian said, get up and work.
I don't want to call her, but yeah, she's a little bit right. She's a little bit right.
I'm totally joking.
But he also knows how to have fun, which is something that I lack, but I think is extremely important. So enough of me talking. Hola, Welington. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Hi, Shayla. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be talking to you today because we're actual friends and
Yes.
we have not if this is what it's gonna take for us to talk, then so be it. I'm here for it because you're busy, I'm busy, but those friendships that you just keep up through Instagram and through social media. So
like, you're there for each other. It's just
right.
You need me, just hit me up because we cannot
Right.
be talking all the time.
Right. And I appreciate social media for that. But thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. This is long overdue. We've been trying to get on this podcast, and I'm so happy for you that you're even doing this.
Thank you. So before we get into the Welington today, I want to start by just describe to me Welington from Dominican Republic, right? Because you weren't born here. You were born in DR. So talk to me about baby Welington and the age that you came to the US.
Baby Wellington. Oh my God. So I came to the US when I was 10. So I lived basically my first constructive years of my life in the Dominican Republic. And my life there was so different than what it is here. I think that people in the DR when they live there, they don't know more anything outside of that. So it's such a bubble that sometimes you don't even know that you're in a bubble. Excuse me. Oh my God, why did I drink Pepsi before this? So they don't know that they're in a bubble, even though it's their everyday life. And I think that's how I lived. My entire family was out there. It's still out there. I come from a very, very big family. So my father has over 7 siblings. My mom has 5, a bunch of cousins everywhere, and we're all in the same age group. So to me, living in the DR meant family. It meant culture. It meant
enjoying life.
Enjoying life.
That I would like for you to talk about. In Dominican Republic, at 12 p.m., a las 12 la cosa cierra, right? Like the lifestyle there is, you work, yes, but you live, baby.
Right. And I think that one of the best things that I take away from my country and its people is the fact that people there, they work to live, they don't live to work. And I think that's the difference with people here. Like immigrants, when they come to this country, it's such a pressure to get your shit together, get an apartment, get this, get that, provide for your children, and get some type of stability that you live to work. And sometimes, not sometimes, I don't agree with that at all. We only have one life and we cannot spend it working.
Yeah. And by the time you're quote unquote stable, you're going to be so tired. You can't even enjoy that money if you even get to that age.
Right. So it's you have to find your ways of how to enjoy your life in the stage that you're in. And I think that, I'm very fortunate because when I was growing up in the DR, money wasn't an issue. Anything like that wasn't an issue. So I was very fortunate in that way. But moving here, the biggest change was, again, family. I went from having 15 cousins that were all around the same age and were all my siblings to moving here with my younger sister. I only had 2 cousins at the time in this country that were my mom's sister's kids, and they were all under the age of 5. So I wasn't connecting with them.
Yeah.
And so I felt why did I came here for? Like,
It's like, why did my parents bring me here?
I left all of my friends, basically my cousins,
Yeah.
there, and it was like it was a completely like, it was a completely different system, a completely different, environment. And then having to learn a different language,
Mhm.
it's
You
hard.
go to
It's
school,
hard.
especially when it's like us, we're very social people. So I thrive off of talking. And
Right.
going to school and being like, you have to be mute, right? Because what am I going to say? I don't know what they're saying. I can't
Right.
engage.
I remember starting ESL class my first time, and there was this other girl that just had also moved to this country a week before me.
Mm,
So me and her are still best friends to this day.
yeah.
Yeah, like that's my best friend. Shout out to Francesca. She moved from the R2 and we both started around the same time. And I was lucky to have her because it was kind of like, okay, like we're both in the same boat. We don't know the language, we don't know anything. And we just moved here. But it's hard because even when you do learn the language, then you go through this thing of like your accent and your insecurities and like, do I really speak English? And then you go from like being in this group of people of like everybody's learning English to then they put you in a regular class where like it's all American kids. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, yeah, because the whole point of ESL is like you're learning English. Because for me, I was in ESL, I think until like sixth, seventh grade. And like you said, a majority of us, we know we speak Spanish. So after class is over, we're speaking Spanish, right? And
Right.
then if you pass
Right.
the test, you're just jumped into like the all English. And I don't know if this was the same for you, but for me, people looked at the ESL kids as less than. And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
you're just mad because you only know English.
Oh yeah. The ESL kids were like the easy target of the school. But I will say, because I always tell you this, I always say I'm real and I always keep it real.
This is unreserved, baby.
I'm gonna keep it unreserved. Um, I was one of those kids too that when I did learn English and went to the regular class, I then was looking down at the ESL kids because there's this pressure of you having to be liked. You know what I'm saying? Like of you fitting in, and I let that succumb.
Mm.
And that was one of my biggest regrets because it felt like I was turning like
Against your own people.
against my people to make these Americans like me.
Mm.
So it just goes to show the shit that can I curse on here? It just
Yeah,
goes
this
to
is
show like
unreserved.
it just goes to show the shit that like kids have to go through, and it's all a mental
Yeah.
game. It's all a mental game.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
And also, like, at least for me, I'm a very like I like to put myself in other people's shoes, which can also bite me in the behind because sometimes I'm over here hurting for other people that I don't need to be hurting for.
right.
But for me, when I got out, all the ESL kids like always wanted to talk to me and be by me because I was like, yeah, better not talk shit about them in front of me because
Right.
that's one thing I'm very grateful for. I'm very outspoken, and there are kids that are not that way. Like they just swallow everything. And you know,
Hmm.
internally, when you go home and all you speak is Spanish because your parents don't know English, it's kind of like you feel like you're stuck in a hole because like
Right. And
you're
sometimes you
judging
can
me, but that's all I know.
even like this fully describe what is happening in Spanish because I don't know if this is the same case for you, but I still speak Spanish, but my Spanish is not the same from when I came to this country. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like
yeah.
my Spanish has definitely taken
A
the
toll.
back a toll. Listen, it has gone through some shit. Like my
Yeah.
Spanish, whenever I'm writing in the family chat, they're always laughing at me how I write in Spanish. Because again, we come to an American world where all we have to talk is English,
Assimilate.
English, English. We have to write in English, everything. And if you really don't take that time to actually practice your native language, you will lose part of it. You will
Yeah.
lose the ability to write it effectively and the ability to I'm a good reader, so I can still read and I can still I can still talk.
But do you
But
think your kids will know Spanish? Because that's something, that's another thing.
oh
And
yeah, my
we need
kids
to
will know
move on.
Spanish.
But you don't even talk. But let me go back. So I like to think that my kids, because I judge, I'm one of those people. I'm sorry, but I'm
Me
gonna keep it
too.
real. If you say you're Latina or Latino or Latinx, but you don't speak the language, I'm sorry, I'm a judge a little bit. I'm
Yeah,
a
yeah,
judge.
yeah.
So I cannot raise my kids not knowing Spanish. But I also think like, how am I gonna do that? Because now as an adult,
Baby, this is what we need to do. We need to work hard so we can have money so that we can send them kids to the R every summer of their childhood. Listen, I speak Spanish, so I will definitely speak Spanish in my home when
But
I
you
raise.
speak Spanglish, like words here and there, like, oh,
No, 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 no. Tampoco así, tampoco así. Like it's not like broken. Like no. I feel like I can still speak it. Like I can still, when I'm around with my Dominican friends, we only speak Spanish.
Right. But when you have your kids, like your mind, I speak Spanglish, right? Like sometimes I start in English and in Spanish, start in Spanish and in English. But I'm thinking, unless I'm mad, I always default to English. So I can imagine when I have my kids, I am gonna make that effort. But the reality is I'm gonna depend on my mom that really only speaks Spanish to really help a sister out.
No, seriously. I think you know what? I agree with you. I think that I'll make that effort, and even going into parenthood, I'll be like, I have, because I love our culture. Like you cannot
everybody wants to be Dominican.
You cannot give me enough money in the world to trade where I come from. I love our country. I love our culture. I love what we stand for and everything that goes into being Dominican. And I want my kids to know that and to like feel as proud as I am to be Dominican, So I'll probably have.
Feel like it could be, I'm sorry to control. I feel like it's easier for us because we are first generation. But I think the battle becomes when you start being second, third, right? Because we already went through the struggles of like our parents, or at least I was raised by a single mom, right? So I had to do my FAFSA and everything. Like I had to figure it out as I went. But for our kids, I'm not gonna say they're not gonna be spoon fed, but they're gonna have it easier.
Yeah. Things are definitely gonna be different for them. I think it just goes into the effort that we put in. You know what I'm saying? Like we have to make that conscious decision that we're not gonna let our culture die in this new generation that we bring in. And I feel like Dominicans specifically, we're so about generation and about like, carrying things on and, so I definitely think that even if it's not me, my mom is definitely gonna make sure my kids are raised Dominican.
Anyways, we could talk about this all day.
All day.
Let's move on. As you can see, we are proud Dominicans. Like I've yet to meet a Dominican that's not a proud Dominican, but hey, there might be someone out there. Don't that. So let's talk about your career, right? The field you're in. You work in media, so do I, but I feel like I started off going to nursing school and then I figured out, well, this is actually not for me. 2 years into my college career, I literally took a semester off because I didn't know that media, like, I didn't know that was a career. Like you went to college for that because in the Dominican Republic, it's looked down upon. It's like if you get your body done or you're messing with somebody, then you get to be on TV.
Right.
So was this something that you knew you wanted to do, or how did you decide like, oh yeah, media is for me?
This conversation is so crazy because I'm like reminiscing to the first time that we met and how we were legit having these conversations. Like, listen, me and Shayla were two random people on a college campus that legit saw each other out. Like we literally like heard about us. I saw you on a video and I was like, I need to be friends with that girl. And we literally met and we were friends.
Shout out to Emily, because I think I knew you.
Oh my God, yes, Emily. We met through Emily. Oh my God, love Emily. But yeah, I started college and I was a pre-med major. I went into school and I was, I was obsessed with the Grey's Anatomy at the time, and I swore that I was gonna be a general surgeon, like just like Meredith. And my family was like head over heels for that journey and that story. And when I was in high school, I was making I was putting in the effort, like, okay, I'm gonna go to school and I'm gonna go pre-med. And also my closest friends in high school were also going pre-med. So it was like we're doing this together and we're gonna be doctors one day, forward to going into my freshman year of college and going into my first chemistry class and feeling like I did not know anything in that class, yet all of my white counterparts knew exactly what they were talking about. Instantly I knew I'm at a disadvantage here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did not learn the same thing in high school in Newark that these white kids learned in their predominantly white towns. So instantly I felt like this is not for me. Like, this is not, the college is not for me, you know? So it was a very, very like weird battle, because not only was I battling the fact that I actually did not enjoy this career path, but I was also battling the fact that am I less than? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
why
I
can
deserve
I,
to be here.
like, why can I understand this? Like, why is it that chemistry is so easy for them, but it's not easy for me? And I felt mad. I really, really, really felt mad for a long time, because I felt like I was not given the tools to succeed when when it came to, you know, going into college. But, you know, as we grow and as we learn, we realize why those things are, and why, you know, underprivileged communities are called
They always
underprivileged
suffer.
communities, because they want us to, they want to keep us there. They don't want us to be able to prevail. So I later on decided that instead of biology, mind you, I was doing good in my grades, because I was still like putting myself like, okay, like me voy a enforzar, like vamos, like
Yeah.
let's get it, you
We're
know?
already here,
And,
so we gotta go up.
right. And I always believe on that, like, you're the medium, the average between like your group of friends. So like when I first started, I was friends with like the bio kids. So like we were studying left and right. We left class to go to a study hall. Like, so,
Yeah.
you know, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this happen. Later on, I decided to go Greek. And that was kind of like the start of my social life, and also the start of like me realizing that this is not what I want to do in life. I do not want to be in school for the rest of my life. I do not want to be in school for 4 more years than I have to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do not, that's not for me. And so then I switched to public health, because I still felt like strongly about helping people in a health matter, but I just realized that, you know, medicine might not be that route. So I switched into public health. I was a public health major for some time, and I actually really enjoyed it. I thought I was like, okay, I could really go into this field and, you know, create some change. And then I had a really, really hard like conversation with myself. And I was like, is this what you're going to do? Like after graduation? Like, is this like, is this what you're really going to
Is this
do?
for me?
Like,
Yeah.
is like, come on now, like for real?
And on top of that, you also have the pressure of your family, right? Because I don't know about you, but my mom, oh, sí, mi hija está en la escuela, ella va a ser enfermera, y ya casi está terminando. So you're like, you are first generation, and you know, you hear that like, oh, yo hice tanto sacrificio for you to be here, da 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 da. So it's like I don't want to say you live for your parents, but you don't want to let them down. So that's also something that you're playing in your head while you're trying to make a decision about your life and your future.
And not only not letting them down, but let's call it spade a spade. Like Dominican parents, Latino parents are not, they don't play. Like they don't play. So
that point, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go
I
ahead.
remember growing up and like when, you know, white kids would get good grades, it was like, oh my God, like allowance, you get paid to clean and all. And for me, that was so foreign because first of all, my mom is not gonna give me money because I got good grades. It's expected.
Right.
You need to get good grades. Mom is not gonna pay me to clean up after myself. It's expected. So these are also these different culture things that is like, if I got a C, my mom was already through the roof. Like, why would I get a C?
Right. And my parents were very big on understand that you live here, but you are Dominican and you are raised in a Dominican way. And the things that, you know, go for those American kids do not go for you. They always make sure I understood that my life was not the life of an American child growing up in this country, that I was still Dominican and I was still going to be raised in a Dominican way. So I was like, you know, watching TV, watching everything and seeing like how kids were rewarded, just like you said, and me not having that, I was like, what is going on? So when I was in college, like, you know, my parents were not playing that. They were like, no, you said you were going to do this, and that is what you're going to do. Because what is this, quitting? Like to them, quitting meant like it was more of a like of a character thing. Like if you quit
Yeah.
this, you're gonna quit everything else in life. So I cannot let you quit this, because then that's gonna teach you some, you know, some valuable lessons that you're not allowed to quit. But I think that what my parents didn't understand is that you can force a child to, or I mean a young adult, because at that point I was a young adult, but you can't force a young adult into a career or path that is just not for them and that they don't feel it, because it's never going to work out. I'm sorry, like it's just never going to work out. You have to let your kids, you have to let your college students like just figure it out like by themselves. Let them explore everything and let them say, okay, I think I want to go into this, and not pressure or pull into certain situations. You know what I'm saying? And I think that for me, that was the biggest thing, because I had to figure these things out on my own. I wasn't able to have the you know, the my mom's reassurance, like everything's gonna be okay, or it's okay, like explore. I wasn't able to have that. So like a lot of these feelings and a lot of this confusion of like what do I want to do with my life, I had to deal with it on my own, you know. Like I had to figure those feelings out, which is why friends, I don't know if you know, you can relate to this. That is why I hold friendships so valuable to me, because when you don't have your family, you have your friends. And especially for immigrant kids, like there's like, you know, we love our parents, of course, but there is a disconnect. There is a
understand they were raised in a completely different thing. Right. And to that point, I took a semester off of college and I didn't even tell my mom, because I knew if I told her,
and I completely understand that.
If I told her that, she found out, because again, I lived with her. So she asked me one day, she was like, Sheila, ¿por qué tú, like, why was I being home a lot, right? Like, because usually at that time I would be in school. Right. And I was like, oh, like, and then I told her and she was like, crazy. And I knew what I was doing, because I knew if I would have told her before I made the decision, I wasn't gonna make it.
You wasn't.
Because she was gonna be like, no, pero ya quédate, you only have these 2 years, like just do it. And which sucks, right? Because they are your parents. So you want to tell them these things. But again, like you said, my mom isn't a bad parent, but it's just she was raised differently, right?
It's a whole completely different system, and you have to be able to understand that and be at peace with that. So many layers of my life, I had to like be at peace that my parents were not going to be able to understand that, and not hold it against them, you know, and not say, oh, they're bad because they don't understand this aspect of my life. But it's two completely generations, and I have to be okay with the fact that they're different. You know what I'm saying? So, and overall, I ended up making the decision to go into communications, but then I hit a struggle because I made that decision I was supposed to do 5 years. So I made the decision in my 4th year, but I still had 1 more year left, right? Okay. So I made that decision in what was supposed to be my senior final year. And I was like, you know, I graduate in another year. I'm already doing an extra year. Like, what, like, are you really going to do this, or are you really going to do something you love? So I said, you know what, I'm gonna get involved with the campus newspaper, I'm gonna get involved with the campus radio, and I'm gonna try to get involved in things that have to do with media, because when I went to switch my major into communications and journalism, they didn't allow me, because they were like, you have over 90 credits. So because you have over 90 credits, you cannot switch into our school, because we have a high graduation rate, and it's proven that people with that are gonna stay, like, you're gonna stay here longer, you're gonna mess that up. Our students graduate in 4 years. So you remember that white assistant from the School of Communications?
I don't. But because of a statistic, they denied.
Yes. Oh my God. I was so livid, because I'm like, why does it matter if I'm paying tuition? Why does it matter if it's like, if it's my life, why does it matter to you?
And the fact that they looked at you and they were like, oh, because of a statistic, I think you also aren't going to graduate. Like, that's so messed up.
Yeah. To them, it was more important to keep the fact that the School of Communications graduate their students in 4 years, more than providing me with the tools that I needed when I thought that that's the career that I wanted to get into. So that was kind of like the beginning of me falling out of love with Montclair State
Encouraging.
University. And I was like, you know what am I going to do? So that's when I decided to get involved on campus in anything that was media related. So I did the morning buzz. One of I think Fridays I used to do the morning buzz. I used to write articles for the Montclarian, the newspaper. I was the director of media for the Student Government Association, so I took care of like all of our video shoots, all of our photo shoots, anything that was media related for this SGA. I did it. So I thought, and then for my chapter when I was Greek, I was the social media person, and so I was like, you know what, if I can be a student of this of this major, I'm going to surround myself with activities that I'm able to put in my resume, you know? And then I also took some classes that they will let me into, like some free elective journalism classes that I didn't have to be a major for. And that's kind of how I started my journey. And I don't know if I'm rambling, but
no, but so did you end up graduating or no?
I never graduated.
So what was the decision? Because I know you also got an internship, right?
So when I was in school still, I remember they sent out, I used to always be in the School of Communications. Even though I wasn't a School of Communications student, I used to, because Shayla, I literally believe, I was like, you need to be surround yourself in that. So like I remember watching you in class from the mirror, from those mirror classrooms, that those glass classrooms, and being outside on the couches just like doing homework. Mind you, like I'm not even
to do with this.
You know what I'm saying? But I was like, I need to be surrounded in that. So because I was always in the building, I saw that they posted a thing that said that NBC Universal was going to come to campus and they were going to do like
it was like a colloquium.
Yeah, like, right. So because it was a colloquium, you needed to be a student in order to go into that session. So I was like, I'm sorry, and nothing keeping me from this colloquium. Like, I do not give a damn. So I sneaked into the colloquium. Like, I really did. Like, I really did. And I sat front row. And I sneaked into the colloquium, and I met the recruiters from NBC Universal there, and they gave us this little barcode that they were like, you know, all of our summer internships are there. You just got to scan them. And I was looking around when I was in that room, and I was like seeing, like, you know, some of the greats from the School of Communications, people that were involved in the news program, people that were involved in the radio station. And I'm like, some of these people are on their second internships already. Like, am I really gonna get an internship with NBC? So I ended up not applying for a very, very long time. And then I remember the application deadline was due. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let me apply. Let me send this. I sent the application, like the deadline. I sent my application in on the day of the deadline, right?
Oh my God.
So I was like, and that was me sabotaging myself. Sometimes you really feel like you're not worthy.
You
like
were in your head. You had what's it called? Imposter syndrome.
Because I saw like people like, you know, Madison. I don't know if you remember Madison. Yeah, like she's doing great now. Oh my God. And I still keep in touch with her. But I saw people like her that were already on like their third big internship. I'm like, if she's applying, they're not going to pick me, someone that has all of this experience. So I kind of like was fumbling the bag for myself, but I still applied. And then one random day I was in my village apartment, you know, cooking some dinner, and I get a call. No, I actually get an email from NBC saying, oh, we have chosen you to go to the next round of interviews, video interviews. And
what was your reaction to that?
I screamed because I was like,
no way.
I'm like, what? Me? When I submitted my application the day of? That's crazy. So I was like, wow, that's insane. I was so happy. I was telling everybody I got through one of the round of the interviews. But then again, imposter syndrome again. I waited. Oh my God, this is even embarrassing to say. They gave me a deadline to submit those video interview questions, and I submitted them a day late after the deadline. Because again, in my head, I was like, they're not gonna pick you. Like
why am I gonna waste my time on this?
Yeah, like, are you serious? And then one day I was like truly like by myself in my apartment, and I was like, wow, you really let that deadline. You really let that pass. Like, you really had one of the best opportunities of your life and you let that pass. It was the day after the deadline. And I was like, you know what? let me just record it right now. At least I sent it. Like, at least I
Yeah.
sent it. Whether it's late, at least I sent it. And they called me and they were
Wow.
like, we want to offer you the internship. And I'm like,
That's an example when it's meant to be, it's meant
it's
to
meant
be.
to be. It's when it's meant to be.
Because
it's
you
meant to
really
be.
had all the red flags.
All, baby, I was giving them all the red flags that I like. I'm like, how do y'all even like? Do y'all not get timestamps when you get this submissions to your systems?
That's
Because
so crazy.
it was so crazy, and that was kind of like I interned at CNBC for a year almost. I loved it over there, and they loved me. And when I was still in school, so I was interning full time and still going to school. And then towards the end of my internship, the internship cycle was about to end, and everybody was trying to make moves. Like all of the other interns were like, I'm going this way, I'm going this way, I'm going this way, like the next internship. And I'm like, okay, so what am I gonna do? I was doing some interviews here and there, and at this point it was easier to get interviews because I had CNBC under my resume. So I did some interviews at CBS, I did some interviews at NBC News in Rockefeller, I did some interviews at ABC, and the interview at ABC was the one that I enjoyed the most, and I was really hoping that I got that job as an intern for the assignment desk of the New York bureau. And then when I went through all of the interviews, the lady was like, we would love to have you, but we're still working things out. So like, you're gonna hear from me, right? So then I told my internship manager, I was like, listen, like ABC is really interested in me, and they loved me so much at CNBC that they were like, they didn't want me to go. So then she was like, my internship manager sent out an email on his own behalf to all of his colleagues and said, listen, I have a valuable intern that I do not want him to leave. Is there any team that will take him for the summer? Wow. And then the social media team responded and was like, we would love to interview him. So then I interviewed with the social media team, and it wasn't even an interview, it was more of a conversation, because she was like,
to show face.
Yeah, like this person went out of their way to email the entire company on your behalf. Like, you're clearly
be good.
Yeah, you must be good. So they offered me the position for that summer to continue on my internship with the social media team. And I ended up going there because ABC just never responded to me. Mm-hmm. And so then I stood with the social media team for a month. And then a month into that internship, ABC called me again. And they were like, hey, I'm calling you. It was the lady that I had interviewed. She was like, I'm calling you because we have a position that opened within our team. I know that you applied to be an intern, but this is a full-time position to be a news assistant, and it's a staff position. And I was like, I have a year left of school. Like, are you aware of that? And she was like, listen, you figure out what you have to do. We're offering you this position.
Right.
We know your circumstances. It's whether you want it or not. We believe that your experience you're capable to do the job. And we believe that you're more than an intern. So that's why we're offering you this position. And I was like,
they don't even know you at this point though, right? Because you've never worked at ABC.
No, they were just going about over the fact that, I was at CNBC for such a long time. They kept me again for another one. And then also my internship manager also had emailed her, like on a private email, like, hey, like sending like kind of a recommendation type of thing. Mm-hmm. So I was like, wow, ABC News is offering me a job, a staff position, and I haven't even graduated. Wow. You know how big that is. As a student that is trying to pursue journalism,
especially at a top network, right? Like, we're not talking like just
local. We're not talking anywhere local. We're talking about one of the top networks in the country,
right?
And also working at the assignment desk, which is the team,
nucleus, yeah,
the nucleus of it all. So I was like, I will be stupid to say no to this because I have to finish school. Like, I will be dumb. These opportunities do not come for kids like me that look like me, that are my color. Those opportunities do not come for people like me all the time. So I made the decision to put school on pause, which was indefinitely at that point, and kind of going to my career. And I started working at ABC News, and the rest was history. I never went back to school. I just
Wow.
kept going, and kept going. And yeah, it's crazy.
That is great. First of all, and I think it's important for us to realize that I know people that literally went to college for this and still have not gotten a job in the field. So it's a lot
It's
about
hard.
connections, who you know. Once you get in, do not burn bridges if
Do
you
not.
can, because at the end of the day, it sucks because to me, I always saw it as kissing ass and I
Mhm.
hated that. But as long as you do your work, your work will speak for itself. Because
You realize,
even in the major.
right? And then when you're in there, you realize that there's a higher game. You realize when you're in news, you realize that like news is like living a reality show. Like there's a higher like situation going on,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you need to move in it in a certain way, and you need to make sure that people know your name. You need to make sure, and news is very cutthroat, so you need to make sure
Mhm.
that not only are you doing your job, but you're also like going above and beyond. People that do their jobs and just do their jobs, they
They're
they
not
keep
gonna make it
they
out.
keep their jobs, but they stay in very basic positions. They're not the stars of the networks. It's
Yeah.
those people that like go above and beyond, that become
And
like the stars.
yeah. And let's be honest, I wouldn't, I don't know, because I feel like it's a hard battle, right? Because at the end of the day, you're also not getting paid as much when it's an entry level position. Coming from where I come from, I thought I was living the dream. Like, oh, I'm making so much money, but in reality,
Girl,
well, no, you are not. You
I
is
would I
not making coins.
I think that ABC position was paying me 47,000 when I first started, and I swore that I was like
That's more than I'm
47,000.
making now. So you
Like
making coins,
I
sis.
was like, I am doing it. Like I'm moving out. I am buying a house.
You didn't graduate college. Your first career job, which you wasn't even a major job, you making 40, almost 50K.
Right. So I was like, I'm living the dream. And also
Yeah.
there was room for me to like do other things that led me to like make more money, like work for other
Yeah.
shows, or pick up certain like side jobs, whatever. So I was living the dream. To me, it was like everything.
So I guess we already discussed how you got your foot in the door in the media, which is important.
Mhm.
You basically paved your own way, regardless of what the people at MSU said. You were like, okay, well, you're not giving me a chance. I'm gonna give myself the chance that I know
Right.
I deserve. After, so you worked at CNBC, ABC, and I know you also worked at BNC, RIP. And now you're at Bravo. So before we continue, what have you learned from working in these top networks that made you think like, because you could have easily decided just to continue working in news in these networks and not create
Mhm.
your own thing. So
Yeah.
what was it that this made you decide like, oh no, I need to create my own thing?
So and you're speaking about the reality rundown, right?
Yes, the reality rundown.
So the reality rundown came about. For those of you that do not know, the reality rundown is a media platform that covers reality TV. So think about any news organization, but our focus is reality TV, and that is what we do. So that came about as an idea of a passion project, just how any podcast, you start a podcast because as a passion project or something like that. Just like that, it was, I at first it was a podcast, and it used to be called um the Rundown with Wellington Gomez. That was like the name of my podcast at first. And it was just a podcast where because I knew that I wanted to be an on-air talent, and that's what I've always wanted to do. But because life gave me lemons and I made lemonade, I wasn't able to go the basic route of like going local and then make,
Move to West Bubble.
move
Yeah, no.
to West Bubblefuck, and create going coming
First of all, I
slowly.
don't even have the funds for that.
Like, come on now. And like 20, you have to waste 20 years of your life in rural America to then come to hopefully one day come back to New York. Hopefully.
Right. That's the And also rural America and people of color, I'm not moving to,
Not me.
I'm not doing that.
Not me. Keep me in Jersey, baby. Like we're not problematic here. Like I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So I knew that I needed to somehow like find ways of showing that I could be talent. So I thought, let me create my own podcast where I give the news of the day. So that's how the rundown came about. And then I've always been a binge watcher of reality television. I've always had love for reality television. Where people say reality television is their guilty pleasure, reality television is just my pleasure. You know, it's not guilty. I own it.
I
And
wish I could be like that.
and
That.
listen, it has taught me so much because you see other people live their lives on television and you kind of learn like what not to do, what to do when about certain situation. Oh, I wouldn't do this to
on broke. Why don't they have a reality show for broke people? Because it's like they're living lavish, going out to dinner and reservations. And I'm like, I watch that and I'm like, wow, my life sucks.
So to me, that was aspirational. To me, I was like, I want that life. And I'm always like I said, surround yourself with how you want to be. So to me, I was like, I need to watch the lifestyle that I want for myself in the future. So that's also how I used to just like stare, oh my God, those houses, those cars, those vacations. Like I want to live that lifestyle. So it was more of like aspirational to me. So then later on, I was like, you know, how about we cover the things that are happening on the shows on the rundown? And then it became the weekly rundown. So then go ahead.
But keep in mind, you're working your network job at this
Yes.
point, right? Like you are paving time to do this, right?
Yeah.
You're paid. This is
No.
something you're doing on your own, which requires a lot. A lot of people think it's just turning on a microphone and going.
It's not.
So much work.
It's so much work. And I was just like, you know what? Let's do this as a way of like me, like, you know, escapism. So like, I love news, but it wasn't fulfilling me, if I was being honest. So I needed something that was like more of a passion to put my time to it. So I felt to feel good with my life, you know? So that's how this kind of like came about. So then the rundown kept going, and you know, it became a platform on Instagram where I was posting basically everything that the celebrities and the reality stars were doing, or any news from the shows or clips or anything. It became kind of like the hub of
doing all of this by yourself.
By myself. I was creating the templates, creating the aesthetics, creating everything, like the colors, everything. Like it literally feels like I am building a company from the ground up. And flash forward to now, I have a team, but before it was just me. I was the one posting every day and seeing like, you know, 4 people like my things. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I was still doing it.
So how did you, because that's my problem, right? Like I start stuff and that's something that I need to work on, but I start something and because number one, it's so much work you put into it.
Yeah.
Right? And again, like people don't realize that. So they don't like, or they don't share, they don't do things that are really easy. So how did you stay motivated?
To me, it was like, do you really want this? And I'm a dreamer. I am a dreamer. I dream con los ojos abiertos. Like my mom always says that, like, tú siempre estás soñando. So it's like, I was like, I see where this is going. Like, I see where this is going to go. I believe, like, I saw myself in my own office one day, in my own studio. Like, I saw Rundown Media in big lights. So I was like, I need to keep this going. Like, I need to do this. So I was just doing it. And every day I saw a little bit of a change. It went from 2 followers to 4, from 4 followers to 5, from 5 followers to, and it was very slow. It was very slow.
But you were consistent.
But I was consistent. And I think consistency is the biggest key, because when God sees you doing something all the time and putting in that work, he rewards you in ways that basically makes your business better. So I think all of the opportunities that I've been able to have through the reality rundown, have been because God sees me putting so much work into it. So he puts those things on my lap, like, you putting that work, so here's now an interview, and then that interview helps my brand to even get bigger. So it's been, when I decided to do that, I was just like, I need something to like to do on my own, something that
You
feels
gotta
good.
maintain.
Yeah, like something that feels like a hobby. At
But do
first I
you
didn't.
think, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead. No,
but
go
do you
ahead.
think these new jobs helped you gain the qualities? Because you didn't gain that from school, right? It was through
No.
experience that helped you, just writing,
Yeah.
creating captions, like just
Yeah.
things that people see as simple, but like there's a lot of thought that goes into a post.
So when, and I think you also, you can relate to this now, when you're in the media industry, a lot of people are producers, but not a lot of people are journalists.
Mm.
And when you're a journalist, nothing can take that away from you. It's like being a doctor. Like, you can stop practicing and going to any other field, but no one can take away the fact that you were once a doctor and that you have those certifications. So even though now I'm not practicing journalism anymore in my everyday work, because I'm a television producer and it's way different than what it is to be a journalist.
Yeah.
Those skills that I put in, like almost 5 years in the journalism world, helped me so much in, one, knowing how to write, two, knowing how to convey to an audience, three, understanding like an audience, understanding what an audience wants. When I was working at CNBC and I was a social media intern for 1 month, I learned so many things on how to run a social media platform through that job, that I still use the skills and tools that I used to use on my everyday work over there. I still use it now, and I implement it to my own team. And they, so it's you learn a lot through your own jobs, and for you not to put those things into your own, into whatever passion project, into whatever side thing you're doing, would be stupid, because it's like you're learning all of these things that are media related, and you're over here doing something that is media related. Put it together,
Use it to your advantage, right? Like
yeah,
you're already here. You have
right,
to do this for work, so why not do? Like
right.
they're all transferable skills at the
So
end of
I just learned so much from building an aesthetic, building a brand, and also seeing how these news brands were carrying themselves on social. I knew that I wanted the rundown not to be the shade room, not to be those like gossip sites that were super messy. I wanted to be
But a
about.
lot of people like the shade room though. I feel like
Oh,
there's
and I
good.
love and I'm not saying that the shade room is wrong. I love the shade room too, but there's a difference in between instigating your audience and letting the audience create their own. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I feel
That's
like.
funny though, because I feel like reality TV is messy, right? Like the movie
Right.
that you were in is very much messy. Sometimes, as a producer, sometimes things are cut to be, because if it was just people just going out for dinner and everything is ha ha ha, messy sells. It sells.
Right.
But
So to me, I thought about it more of like longevity and the fact that I was
okay.
building a brand. So I couldn't be messy about let's say like I was posting a clip of an episode that recently aired. I couldn't be messy in my caption and then ruin a possible interview with whoever I was speaking about. So I knew that I needed to hold my brand to a higher standard, because I knew that in the future I wanted interviews. I wanted to be invited to red carpets. I wanted to be included in when these networks would send out their media kits to all of the entertainment
Celebrities.
websites.
Mhm.
Like I wanted to be included in that, and I knew that if I took the messy route of being messy in my
Yeah.
production of content, I knew that that was going to stop me. So that was kind of like the decision where I said, I need to, my brand needs to be a higher standard. And don't get me wrong, if you do something racist, homophobic, something not acceptable with my brand and what we stand for, we will be messy on you, because we don't care about an
You did
interview
that,
with you.
not us.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
at this point, I don't care to interview you, or I don't care to have a connection with
Mhm,
you.
mhm.
But you have to think about, it's all of a PR game as well. Like, you don't want your brand to be hated by the people that you cover, you
I think
know?
Cardi B for a while was not messing with the shade room. She was like, "Don't post me." Like now she's okay with it, but I think
Right.
for a very long time, Cardi B did not want the shade room to post anything about
Because when you post something, let's say you post something about a celebrity and it's a difference between, and we learned this in journalism, don't put your opinion into it, just say what happened.
Right.
And when you put your opinion into it, then it lets the subject know that you have a bias. Oh, they don't like me.
Especially
Or
in their captions.
you know what I'm saying?
You know what you're doing by posting these
Right?
people.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like the
Yeah.
caption says a lot. So I knew that I needed to, in my caption, just say what happened and not, pick a side, because it was about the longevity of my brand to, like, at the end.
So this is something that I feel passionate about. I know you do as well. Although there has been some movement, right, in diversity in media and like the field that we work in, it's still a very like minorities are still minorities. And I
Yeah.
remember, I think you posted this on Instagram or something, and it really hit me. It's like you said something along the lines of diversity doesn't mean just hiring people. It means actually listening to their pitches, right? And actually taking into action.
It's called diversity and inclusion, and people forget about the including part.
Please talk about that, because sometimes I get discouraged. So I'm gonna be real. Sometimes I don't even pitch because it's like at the end, especially
Who's listening?
news. And again, at the end of the day, it's news. So it's like we already know what we're gonna cover. Is the same three stories, and that's just that. And it gets discouraging because you feel like you're like, oh, okay, I'm in this company, I'm gonna do all these changes, and then you actually get there, and it's like, well, maybe not.
Right. And I would say that that was also one of the biggest things that pushed me to create my own lane, because like I said, when I started the rundown, it was about giving my top news of the day, because I felt like the establishments that I was working for were not providing what was actual news. Like, you cover the president farts, and it's like breaking news, A block.
Ice cream flavor he had. Like,
You know what I'm saying? Like, I do not care. Like, there's actual shit happening in actual communities that people need to know about. So I think that at the end of the day, we can work for whatever company we can work for, but is a white man at the top of those companies, unfortunately. And if you're not one of those lucky ass Latinos that makes it to the top, it's really hard to be able to get your point across, or even just get America's point across. So I felt very discouraged when I worked everywhere, because I felt like I pitch, and my stories are not getting picked up. People don't even see the value in my voice.
Yeah.
I was hired here to provide a different aspect. I remember when I got my first associate producer role with the Shepard Smith show, and I was working for them. And I remember the first thing they said, oh, everybody look around you. The team is so diverse because we want our show to represent what America is. And I was living for it. I was like, yeah. Right. And like, I'm a producer, so I'm gonna be able to like pitch my own stories, and like, real stories that matter.
Then
and
you had your first editorial call.
Right. And it was like, this is what we're doing. And I'm like, wait, is an editorial meeting to pitch, or is an editorial meeting to assign? Like, what is it that we're doing here? We're not pitching, we're assigning. Like, the pitches were taken care of prior to the editorial meeting.
They still want you to pitch, though. That's how they get you. Also,
yeah.
What are you to pitch for? And again, I don't want to say don't do it, because there are those times where your pitch does get picked, but I don't know. I like to work hard, but I also want to feel valued.
Yes, and they don't, and those spaces sometimes don't make that for you. That is exactly why when I was at the end of my journey at ABC, I just felt alone. I felt like, I was the only Black Latino person in my team. I was the only person that looked like me. And aside from all of the microaggressions that I went through, I just felt like this is not for me. This is not like for me, not even for me, like professionally, but for me, Wellington, like who I am, like this is not for me.
So you feel like you also have to compress yourself and not be
Yeah.
who you are.
Right. And you and be someone different than you are so that these white people can like you, you know? And shout out to she's one of my best friends now and someone that I hold so dear to like my heart in the industry. Her name is Bridget. She came as another news associate when I used to work at ABC. And here is this tall black girl being herself, her accent from the South, never changed for nobody.
Right.
And like people were bothered by that. People were bothered by that. And I saw that and I was like, whoa, like being unapologetically you goes a long way. And I saw her impact on me because I saw how she was being her authentic self. And then I started being my authentic self. So if one thing that I will always say is be who you are, because that will get you, that will take you farther than you trying to assimilate and trying to, you know, so we come from too much culture to try to like culture down to make other
and
people
your
feel
facade can
comfortable.
only make it so long, right? Because then, like you said, at the end, you felt like alone, right? Because
Yeah.
you can't even be yourself. And mind you, when you are in this industry, you're literally working all the time.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like it's no end to it. So I think that being yourself and staying true to that
Yeah.
through it all, because news is discouraging, and that is why. So I got laid off from CNBC, right? Um, they laid people off, and they may have or may not have laid off all of the people of color in their team. I don't know. But we were laid off allegedly, right? Because you know you sign NDAs and shit. People were laid off, and I said, oh my god, like I got laid off. Like what am I gonna do?
Yeah, the
Here,
bills don't stop.
the bills don't stop. I'm already living by myself at this point, and I don't have a degree. So all those things that my mom always used to say to me, like,
I
termínalo,
couldn't
porque
even tell my mom.
un girl, un día te van a votar, un día te van a votar, and you're not gonna be able to like, you're not gonna be able to fall on something. And when that happened, that went through my head. I was like, wow, she was right. Like, here I am, laid off, without a degree. Like, where do I go from now? You know what I'm saying? Like, me hoping that my all of the experience that I've had to this point can carry me to my next position. And that is when I started working with the Black News Channel. And the Black News Channel was honestly one of the best places that I've ever worked at, because not only did we did news that mattered, and we did news that like our community deserved to know. It's just different when you work in your space. It's different when you work in a space of where everybody looks like you, and your voice is encouraged, you know?
I have a question on that. So for me, I feel like this is a very touchy subject, especially for Dominicans, right? Because you have the Dominicans that are like, you know, me not black, da, 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 whatever. But I never heard the term Afro-Latina until I was in college and I learned about it. And sometimes, you know, when you grow up, sometimes people think like, I can't speak for every Dominican, but a lot of times Dominicans don't think they're black because no one, like, that's not a part of the
Right.
education system, right? So it
Right.
wasn't until I was in college and I decided to take these classes and the
Mhm.
internet you have there. When did you know that you were Afro-Latino? Because I didn't grow up with that,
Right.
without even knowing what that was.
I didn't grow up with knowing what that was either. And I think that no one in DR knows grows up like that,
Oh, esa
because
morenita, esa morenita. Like,
yeah,
we know we black, but
right.
it's just not like,
And in DR, at the end of the day, DR is a European colonized country. So even though we have our freedom, people still, the country is still running on those European values that these rapist colonizers put onto our people, our indigenous people of the island, right? So not only that, then you learn that more Black people from Africa were came through to the Caribbean that ever came to the United States. So when you think about the richness of our history and our culture, everything we have comes from Africa. The way we cook, you think white people cook the way we cook? No, that came from our slave ancestors.
we had a
That
lot of plantations.
yeah, plantains, the way we cook chicken, the way we make rice. everything that came from our Black ancestors. And Dominican Republic, unfortunately, is one of the most racist countries because it's being ran by white Dominicans that
Trujillo
do
literally killed people trying to like make us white. It's like,
make us
sir,
pure. Like, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And it's never been encouraged for you to wear your natural hair, for you to, say that you're a Black person. Like my mom, it wasn't until like everything that happened in 2020 that I sat down with my entire family and I set them straight of what it is to be who they are. But my mom didn't even consider herself Black. And mind you, my mom is like, you see the Black border of this Zoom? Like that is my mom. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, so it's like it's crazy because it's so sad how blind
Mm-hmm.
our culture is to
Yeah.
who we are. I remember when Cardi B said Black Lives Matter, Dominicans wanted to kill her. Dominicans
Ridiculous.
Dominicans wanted to kill her. They wanted to,
Yeah.
like, and she was like, that is why sometimes I get mad at my own country because you guys don't make sense. And it's
And
like,
there are a lot of Dominican races, like, oh, yo no quiero que tú me traigas moreno, or like me, I'm
yes.
very proud of my hair. But growing now, my mom asked me to do her curly hair, but before it was like, oh, si tú no te alistas, like like she
Ese
wanted me to
pajón.
straighten my, yeah. She'd be like, oh, ese pajón, like your hair's gonna fall off if you don't straighten it, or like anytime we had an event, you had to straighten your hair, right? So then you start thinking like, oh, well, beauty is straight hair,
Yeah.
like, beauty
And
is
where did that come from? Who has straight hair? Like, you know what I'm saying? Not us. Like, so it's like
yeah.
that all of that, it's like one of the biggest things that I learned is that a lot of the struggles that we deal as a community now are not struggles that can be fixed in one day, in a month, or in a year, because
Yeah,
it's
no.
generations and
Built
generations.
into the system essentially.
Yeah, and generations of racism and bigotry that was placed on our island. We were to the point that, like, are even in our island, like we are made to believe that our sister country in the same island, it's like we're supposed to fight with them, and like, like.
I literally, when I went to DR, I asked my grandma, I was like, oh, because when I went, there was a lot of Haitians like working in constructions and like they were doing a lot of jobs in DR. And like I would just hear small talk, like people talking shit about the fact that they were there. And I'm like, oh, like what's the problem? And literally,
Right,
there was literally no reason for them to be mad other than like, because essentially they're there because the Dominicans don't want to do the job. So
right.
Haitians are over here. It's essentially like people that migrate here and are
Hmm.
doing the job for like less than what they should be paying for.
Hmm.
Like they're literally working, and you're mad because they're here working. Like
It's
they
the
have,
same thing. And it's crazy because those same Dominicans that talk like that then come to this country and get paid less than what they should be, and are basically the epitome of what is happening in the country, and they don't even know it. Like, they don't even know it. They're not able to comprehend that part.
yeah,
So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a facade, and it's like it's bigger than anything that we can, try to fix within in a sum of time. But you have to fight it, because it's like, and that's why I'm so vocal about it. I am so proud of being Afro-Latino. I am so
yeah.
proud of being Black. I am so proud of having the hair that I am. I'm proud of that, because
It all
we need
starts with
more
us.
we need more Dominicans to be vocal about that, and to be more open about the fact that that's where we come from. You know what I'm saying? And that
Mhm.
and that is truly our true selves. Like,
And you can't deny that. Like
you
you
can't.
literally cannot. You can walk around thinking you're white, but sweetie, at the end of the day, you're not white.
You're not white. You're
Oh,
not white. You're not white. Like, I've heard Dominicans call themselves like, oh, that they're tan. Mind you, they're legit Black. I'm like, that's not a tan.
I'm crying.
That's
It's
not a
so
tan.
sad.
And
It's
it's
so
so sad
sad.
because if hypothetically speaking, we went back into like slavery times, we will all be
Okay, we
enslaved.
would not pass the test. Since you were right here with the black people.
Right. So it's like,
Like,
you know what I'm saying? Like, where is this
yeah.
disconnect that you're not understanding? But again, our leaders are the people in power. They've made sure to show us what a Dominican looks like. A
Yeah.
white person with long straight hair with European features. The other day, I was talking to my grandmother the other day, because she said, we were looking at a picture of someone from El Barrio that had a kid, and she was like, "Oh my God, esa muchachita sí es fea," and I'm like, "¿Y por qué ella es fea?"
Right.
And she's like, "Oh, lo labio y esa ceja," and I'm like, so I had to explain to my grandmother. I was like, "Do you know that we were raised to like we were accustomed to see those black features as ugly because European colonizers saw those black features as ugly. And if you had those black features, you will get the lesser, like the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
So it was the light skins, the more refined black people that worked in the house, but but the black people that have more pronounced, facial features or whatever it was, those worked in the field. And just explaining that to her was like this whole thing.
But they don't get it. That's the thing. Like
No,
it's a
they don't.
generational thing. But I think it's important, like us young people, right? Like again, I grew up not knowing that I was Afro Latina, right? And
Right,
sometimes, but there are those Latinos that are just they're stuck to their old ways and they think they're white. And it's funny because you look at them and you literally know you don't have not one white thing in you.
right,
Until you speak English, maybe.
right.
So it's hilarious. And I just wanted to make sure as people that are a part of Afro-Latinidad, we talked about that. And the last point I want to talk about, because we could talk here for days, is how do you manage enjoying life in the midst of all your hard work? Because you're running your own business, you also work at a network job. Like, how do you have time to have fun?
I Living my life is imperative to me. I recently made the decision that I am working to live, not living to work. I am in my 20s, so
Wow, I think you're
I'm
younger than me.
I'm 24. I'm turning
Okay, I'm
25.
25.
I'm turning 25 this fall. Um Recently I realized, I was like, why am I rushing my life? Why do I want to buy a house in 2 years? Why am I rushing my life? Like,
Right.
I am in my 20s, and I am going to live my 20s, and I'm going to live my 20s into the last day of 29. And when I turn 30, then I will think about life
Rush a little
differently.
bit.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? But I'm in my 20s, and I think that our generation has this thing of like, we see others moving in by themselves, or buying a new car, or buying a new condo, or getting this six figure job and things like that. We start comparing ourselves, and like that is the measure of success. And at the end of the day, no, just because someone else is doing something that great for them, but
Right.
just because they're doing that does not mean that that is the measure of success. And I recently actually, like, came with peace to that my journey is not anybody else's journey, and that I wanted to live my life more than having to rush my life into a space that I don't want to be in. So that is kind of like, you have to first make that,
Priority.
yeah, like you have to make that a priority, that you're gonna live your life first before, like people want to act like they have kids and they're 40 years old. Like, I'm not going into a mortgage right now. I'm not going into no mortgage. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not,
This
like,
gives you
what?
time to travel and,
You know
live
what I'm
your life.
saying? Like, cuando tú te cases y tú tengas hijo, it's gonna be so hard for you to pick up and go, because you cannot just buy a flight. You have to buy, depending how many kids you have to buy all those flights too, and you have to find those accommodations. And once you have kids, you don't live for you, you live for them. So it's like, I want to do everything and everything, because I do want to be a parent. So I want to do everything and everything before that time comes, and live my life. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm so weird about
I
that.
like
Like,
that vibe. I wish I'm like such a mom, and that's always been me. And I feel like it's because I was raised by a single mom. So my mom was always like, like my mom was
yeah.
super, super strict, like to the point that now, like, I literally have to force myself to go out and stay home late. And now I live by myself, so I can actually do those things and feel free. Because one thing about Dominican parents, if you are in their house, you could be 50. If you're in your
Right.
house, their rules, please.
Right. Right.
It doesn't
Right.
matter.
Right. No, you really, Shayla, like, and I've told you this before. I'm like, you need to come out. Like, you need to come out. You need to
And I'm
have
trying to
fun.
find a man. That's my thing.
Right. Like, you listen, like, we need to find love out here, and no te va a llegar en la casa. No, like,
I
he's not gonna
know.
come knocking. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you need to find a man, you need to put yourself out there, and also just meet new people, meet, like, I'm all about meeting new people. I'm all about like experiencing life. I love the reason why I love TV so much is because through TV you can experience so many aspects of life that you probably couldn't have if you didn't have a television. So I like to also apply that to my life in general. Like I like to put myself in spaces where I'm gonna meet new people. I'm gonna like be able to meet someone that I don't know that works somewhere. Like the other day, I went to my friend's house that lives in New York City, and her next door neighbor was there, and he's a diplomat from Canada.
What?
And I was like, what?
We're not
When?
going up to Canada.
Right? And like, when would I ever have
Yeah.
met a diplomat from Canada? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
random shit like that. Like you work to live. Don't live to work.
I love that. Thank you so much, Wellington, for taking time out of your day for this. This was supposed to be an hour, but it was definitely more than an
It was a
hour.
great conversation. Thank you so much for having
Of
me.
course. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys enjoy it. I think we touched on a lot of different topics.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you, Wellington.
Bye.
Bye.